Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Studio Sessions, a pottery podcast. We're back with our co-host, Julie Hamer, today of Busy Daydreams Pottery, and we're excited to talk about a number of different topics, one of those being wholesale, or the different avenues which you have to start your pottery business and make it into a viable business. There's a few different models we can approach, and one of the most commonly talked about is wholesale, selling to other businesses, other suppliers, in bulk at a slightly discounted rate. But before we get into it, we just want to say thanks so much to our sponsor today, Speedball Art, or Speedball Ceramics. They're kindly making all of the Madam House productions just a little bit more accessible with the help and support that they've contributed. But not only that, but they help and contribute in so many other ways to the artist in the ceramic and print space, and by providing wonderful tools, materials, and really just being awesome people. So thanks so much, Speedball.
Speedball is awesome. I actually have one of their glazes behind me, one of their new ones. I am so excited to use this. It's the Dragonstone. Cone
I love the
536.
Dragonstone.
Yes, I saw you use it on some of your some of your larger cups.
I can show you. I have one right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have it with you? So those of you who have video will be able to see this. We'll have it up on YouTube later. Gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So this is on a porcelain chalice. I really just like how there's so much texture and depth here. It's very bright turquoise blue, but underneath it has like this red, streaks of red, dark maroon, and sometimes black. It really is a quite nice glaze.
It's a gorgeous glaze, and I am so excited to use this mid-fire Speedball glaze. So thank you, Speedball, for that.
Thank you, Speedball.
So, all right. But yeah, I kind of want to start off too with a question that we had from a friend, because you were so kind as to put up some questions, like who has questions about the podcast on your Instagram stories. And when my friends asked, what is the best and scariest part of starting up your own studio?
So much.
So much.
But the scariest, we have to rank them. It's not all just
yeah.
existential crisis.
I mean, yeah, existential crisis is probably number one, but I guess that's kind of like the umbrella for everything that kind of trickles down.
You're right.
So you kind of, I mean, when I think about it, I was so excited to have my own studio space and work for myself, just because I get to be my own boss. I get to make up my own rules, my own hours. If I'm like, I'm going to go get lunch whenever I want, or if I'm like, I want to take the day off and do whatever I want, I can do that within reason. I still have to get my work done, especially if I'm doing larger orders or time crunch orders. But it's still a matter of, goodness, what am I doing? And am I doing enough of it to make money?
Right. And that's the big thing, is because unless you're doing this as a pure creative expression and you have outside sources of funding, then your studio practice, for many of us, the goal is to be self-funded, and not only to pay for the projects, but also make a little bit of profit too.
Right. So that's what I felt like would be a great topic then to roll into with wholesale, because we both do wholesale orders. Well, we both do. Yeah, I mean, you've done larger wholesale orders, of course, much larger scale than I have. I mean, when I do wholesale, I'm talking maybe anywhere between 15 to, I think my largest has been 200 orders, 200 pieces within an order.
That's a large amount.
It's a pretty large amount, yes. So, but it definitely takes away a lot of that anxiety of how am I going to make money? How am I going to make enough money? And finding those sources and how to even like get wholesale orders, then how to make them efficiently, how to stay on top of everything for the demand without feeling the burnout, what tools to use to help maybe make your process go a little bit quicker. It's just a whole lot that we can get into. So I thought that, that'd be a good thing to start with.
That's a great launching point. And honestly, there's so much there already. It's a wholesale in and of itself. A lot of potters will think, I'll add wholesale accounts onto what I'm doing. I'll just sprinkle some wholesale. And then quickly, I think it becomes apparent that wholesale is such a monumental part of the revenue model. It's difficult to have a practice that just does a little bit of wholesale. It's almost like it takes up so much time because you're making in those quantities, and there tends to be more customer involvement Well, it can be. I guess it's client dependent. But the amount of time required to put into those channels of maintaining wholesale output, it tends to be more than just a little bit of your time. It ends up being a lot of your time. And with ceramics, our time's the most valuable part of what we do.
Absolutely.
And so it's something to be considered for sure.
Yeah. And I think too, when we come into that idea of time, and it's funny too, because you're like, oh, a little bit of wholesale sprinkled in, because I thought, oh, I'll just do that, right? Like I'll take a wholesale order or two every once in a while. And now it's become, I can't take on any individual custom orders because I have so much wholesale. But in a way though, I know what I'm making. I'm making a lot of the same thing and I like it in that sense. But then I also do tend to get a little bit of that burnout. I was talking about that before we started up. I was like, I am exhausted from throwing. I'm exhausted. Yeah. My body is tired. I am tired. My arm hurts.
My arm hurts.
My arm hurts. Okay, I'm old. I can feel the weather change in my bones.
The barometric pressure is dropping.
The pressure is like, hey, I'm going to mess with your elbow and your wrist today. Absolutely. 100%. Listen, it's a tough world out here being a potter, but it's also fun. So if you were to give someone some advice, or I mean, I don't even know, how did you get into some of your wholesale? Like, how did you find people to do wholesale with, or did people come to you?
It started off kind of organically, I think, as a lot of things do. I was making pots. I think I had maybe 4 years. I just graduated. I was making in my professor's old studio. We talked about that before. The first, I guess you could consider it, wholesale account I had was a local coffee shop. The Village Grind had just opened and they wanted an order of 12 mugs. And I said, great, yeah, make 12 mugs and we'll give you a little discount because you're ordering more than one piece at a time. And then, again, that was my first one. I had no idea how wholesale worked, how to structure that in a way that it was sustainable and profitable and all the things. But that was my first account. From there, we've done a little bit of everything. We've done grocery stores. Like I think we've both have sold through Swamp Rabbit Cafe.
Yeah, I love Swamp Rabbit. They
are great.
Nice. They're
really nice. As far as wholesale accounts go, I think that one's probably my favorite because they were also just like, make it look how you want to look.
Yeah, and then whenever I would drop off stuff, they would just like open it up and be like, it's like Christmas, and they're just picking up everything I made and just expressing so much joy towards my work, and everyone there is lovely and kind, and it's just one of the best interactions I've had with anyone, really, especially in terms of clients.
And I think as we get farther in the conversation, when we get to the customer part, I think we'll understand that like the customer makes or breaks wholesale in terms of if it's enjoyable or sustainable. But as far as my personal experience, we've made for coffee shops, we've made for restaurants. So we've designed plateware for full restaurant needs, hundreds of plates, and cups and mugs and more. And then what I find myself doing most now is smaller bits of wholesale for like 1 or 2 customers a year. Like I mentioned earlier, kind of being maybe a little sarcastic about sprinkling wholesale in, but that is where I find myself at the moment. We currently have a catering company that's setting up a retail like boutique store downtown that has ordered a bunch of things from us. And so we're making for them. And that's probably our only wholesale client at the moment. Although we'll do a few one-off orders from time to time. But in the past, it's been one of the avenues that I've explored and tried. And it's worked in some capacities and it hasn't in other ways. And so we've kind of succeeded and failed a lot there. So I'm happy to chat about both of those ways. The successes and the failures.
Well, I was gonna say, let's go into that a little bit. What have some of your, or even just one of your best successes with it been, and then one maybe kind of setback? You're like, oh, maybe I have to change something up because of this, or stop doing wholesale in a way because of this, or is it a way you create, or kind of divulge into that?
Yeah. So one of the best things about wholesale clients and wholesale orders is that you know what you're going to make. You have a set amount of pieces, and you're more or less making the same things over and over again. That's really handy because as you're creating, expending less creative energy to decide what you're going to create or what it's going to look like, or a ton of surface decoration. Because most wholesale orders are at their best simple pieces because you can make them again and again and again. And you don't have to spend a ton of like this creative energy wondering, how am I going to decorate? How am I going to form it? It really is the repetitive motion. And once you can get into the cycle, then you're able to make the same thing. And the other side is you're making it for one person. you don't have 100 different customers that you're answerable to for 100 different pieces. You have one customer that you're answerable to for hundreds of different things.
Yes.
And a lot of times that is a lot. A lot of times potters will prefer that, just one person to go between. And the stability of having work set aside for the next however long until you fill it is also really nice. Plus, wholesale does offer a lot of stability because it's recurring. A lot of times those relationships are long lasting, and you have a customer who's going to buy and rebuy and rebuy. And those are always some of the most valuable customers you can ever have. So there's a lot of advantages to wholesale in terms of stability and recurring sales and low amount of customers to answer to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's be honest. For potters, studio time is precious. You don't want to waste it fighting difficult tools or materials. That's why so many potters I know stick with Speedball, myself included. Their gear is made to last and made to work. Whether that's the tools that actually make throwing accessible, their array of pottery wheels for artists at every level, a fresh set of bats, or a glaze that actually fires to the color on the label. The easiest way to get everything Speedball makes? Visit clayking.com. Clay King stocks the entire catalog, keeps pricing fair, and ships fast. And I mean fast. So stop hunting all over. You can get what you need all in one place and get back to throwing. Visit clayking.com today to see Speedball's full range and give yourself more time to create. How about for you? We can get into the failures in a little bit, but for your side, what's the enjoyable part of wholesale?
I think for me is, well, I with working with Swamp Rabbit specifically, if I can, with doing that, I went to them with a couple different types of mug ideas. I do a lot of mugs for them right now, so that's why I'm picking mugs. And I mean, I just love working with them. I mentioned that before too. But it's nice because they allowed me the creative freedom of changing up the design of the mugs based on the season. And
That's nice.
I get to pick a design, and I get to pick. I mean, I still like show it to them, like, what do you like? I do like maybe one or two different ideas, but it's really helped me expand my creativity in that sense, where I get to play more in the sense of, oh, what do I want? Well, like, what does this season say to me? Or what, how specific do I want to get? Or do I want to do more abstract? And it's been really fun to play and design that way. But it's also helped me, I feel like, become a better repetitive throwing more than anything. And I've gotten really used to that. But I've also expanded my own horizons in my own artwork in terms of drawing, but also in woodwork, because I went and made my own tools so that I could make my wheel throwing experience for multiples much easier for myself. So
you're in like multiple levels of setting up your process so it's consistent.
Absolutely. Anything that makes the process easier, honestly. And that's one of the things I want to get into as well. But I definitely like that about wholesale orders, is I could sit down, I have a routine, I know what I'm doing, it's consistent, it's constant income, and I can prep ahead of time. And it's really just nice for me. And then I know that it's not going to take up space in my studio, because once it comes out of the kiln, it immediately gets packaged up, and delivered, and it's out, and then I start on the next one.
Yeah, that's really encouraging too, is that you don't have to wait for people to buy it. It's already bought.
Right. So, and I think that's one of the things I liked about doing individual custom orders as well, as I knew as soon as it was done, it's out the door. But at the same time, though, with individual custom orders, it's this size of that, and this color, and this detail, and it's several different details for one order, and then you have 100 orders, and they're all different, compared to, oh, I'm making one thing 100 times. And then I'm like, oh, I can kind of I could be creative with it, but then I just kind of get to zone into was introduced to Gilmore Girls, so that's been my thing, is watching Gilmore Girls on the side with my headphones on, throwing on the wheel, and it's just been bliss, especially in the mornings in my studio, since I'm in the sunroom, and opening up the windows and the cool air comes in. I'm like, this is amazing. This is so much fun. This is perfect. Got my coffee, got my dogs.
Got your Gilmore Girls.
Got the Gilmore Girls, yes.
What more do you need?
I am an autumn.
It is that time of year.
It is, but I think that's what I really enjoy about working on my own. I'm working on my own, but doing the wholesale is just the knowledge of knowing exactly what I'm doing, and knowing that I'm going to get that consistent check as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's just the people you work for, you're right. The people you work for, the customers you work for make or break it. And I have been lucky enough to have amazing people that I've been wholesale for, really kind individuals who've been very flexible too. If something comes up, like when we had that huge storm, when the hurricane blew through and my power was out for like 3 days and I was like, I can't fire my kilns. And they were like, we literally don't have power either. So,
No pressure.
No pressure. Now, I would say downside, though, is that a lot of repetitive motion leads to wear and tear on your body.
Yes, it does.
That's why I was complaining about my bones hurting.
Yeah, you're right. And with wholesale orders, you are doing a lot of the same motions over and over and over again. And so it does take a toll, and you do have to be mindful of it. That's why I think when it comes to wholesale, one of the things that is really beneficial for potters to consider is keeping in mind the type of form you offer for wholesale. Like in the beginning, somebody might ask you for something and ask for 20 of it. And it is a complicated form, but you say yes because it's money. And then you get into it and you realize this is a challenging form to replicate over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the self-rules that I made with wholesale is that I'm going to make the simplest version of this thing for wholesale as possible. If I'm going to offer something up in terms of like mass production, I'm going to decrease the amount of input that I have to do per piece, and so that everything is as simple to replicate as possible, whether that's a basic form, basic decoration, or limited glaze palette. Because the second you give a wholesale customer a myriad of options, they're going to take them. And that's going to increase the amount of work that you as the maker have to do.
Absolutely. So being efficient and either having templates, like making your own tools or using tools that are already available so that you can throw consistently if you're going to throw, having molds or making your own molds if you're going to be repeating different forms over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely having a lot of space too, I feel like. That has definitely thrown a little bit of a curveball to me. I had to do a better setup in my garage than what I had. I had to get a lot more shelves just so I had space for everything.
You'll need the surface area.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, is being able to keep your wholesale orders in a simple form. Really, that has helped me out greatly.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things I did after failing a couple of wholesale orders, and I say failing, I mean, they were just challenging, was setting up a wholesale order form with an attached contract of these are the limited options that are available to wholesale clients. And those options being the more efficient scaled down versions of whatever I might offer to the public, but also having like a contract in there and with terms that are, it could be payment periods of 50% due on order, the rest due upon delivery. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to play that out. And depending on the relationship you have with the customer, it might vary a little bit. But I'm curious, do you take or require a deposit on wholesale orders to like cover material costs?
If I'm not going to work with them, or if I don't know if I'm going to work with them over and over again, like have them as returning clients, then yes, absolutely. I require at least 50% upfront, and then the other 50% when it's completed and I can deliver it. Now, if they're out of state, I do have a client right now whose order I'm working on, and since it's out of state, I require all of it up front.
Okay.
But with the place like Swamp Rabbit, because I've been there so many times, I'm like, you know what, I show up, I come in, deliver everything, and give them the invoice, and then they pay me that day or whatever later, and and I know I'm gonna get my payment from them because, you know, they're such great clients and I trust them, they trust me, so everything's good.
Yeah.
And I've done so many orders with them, so yeah. But I guess it really depends on what you want and need. I would recommend that the first couple of times you work with, or always when you work with a new client, get at least 50% up front.
Absolutely. Have you ever been burned, or ghosted?
I haven't, thank goodness.
That's a good thing.
So, I'm really happy about that.
I find that 50% is a great place to start with a new client, maybe 75 if you're unsure or just starting the relationship. There's a lot of ways to balance that, but I think having some level of deposit is a good place to begin, because then you get your materials covered. You have a buy-in from the customer of, hey, we're expecting something now. And you're not getting everything up front all the time, because I know for me personally, if I have the total paycheck, my interest to complete the project goes tanks. It's like, oh, well, I'm already paid. Why do I have to make this? And of course, I know why I actually have to make it. I've made a promise. Having something to collect at the end also makes the whole cycle work a lot better, at least for me personally.
Yes. And then giving yourself enough lead time. So knowing how long it's going to take you to make everything, and then add at least 2 or 3 weeks to that timeline, especially if it's a larger order. If you're like, oh, it's only going to take me 2 weeks to do like 10 items, give yourself 3 weeks. So that's what I do, because I'm in my second week of one of my wholesale orders and I have 4 more weeks left. But I'm like, well, I'm glad I have those extra 4 weeks. But also, too, checking in with your clients with longer timelines. So if you have a much longer timeline, reaching out to them, being like, hey, just touching base, we're halfway through or whatever, and this is where I am in the process. And if you have any questions, let me know. Just want to reach out and let you know, everything's going well, right?
Right.
So, but then still having in that contract and them understanding that if something goes wrong with your kiln, or especially if you don't own your own equipment and you're relying on another studio space's equipment, glaze issues can happen, firing problems can happen. So maybe try not to put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So if you're firing in the kiln, I do this all the time. I'm like, going to put my whole wholesale order in one kiln, and I'm like, maybe I don't, just in case.
That's
so I usually divide up things.
A good practice to get into. Yeah, I've definitely lost orders because of like little glitches, overfirings, underfirings, glaze mistakes. And that's frustrating, because then you don't lose just like one piece, you lose a bunch.
Yes. And I always make extra. And it's nice though, and my advice is, of course, make a few extra just in case. But also, if you're going to make that form and it's a form you're used to making and you can reuse it for something else, just having the bisque form done, or even greenware form done and ready to go. Greenware form, ready to go. I just want to make sure I said it right. And then if you don't fire it, you don't even have to fire it. You can reclaim that greenware. Or if you have it bisqued and you end up not having to use it, then you can use it for another wholesale order or the next one if it's a repetitive client, or then you can just use it for something else, a market or whatever.
You can even offer it to them as well. Like say like, hey, we made a couple extra. Do you want to increase your stock a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Or like, oh, if you had 2 extra mugs and it was like 2 people that work at this place and you make this 2 extra ones, and be like, hey, these are for you, just for you.
That's a great way to keep a wholesale customer happy too, is
Absolutely.
especially the person doing the ordering. Like if it's like a corporation or something and you have like an inventory manager, being really nice to that person.
Yes. Be really nice to your inventory managers.
Yes, exactly. I know the inventory manager at Clay King, she has favorite customers, vendors to work with.
Nice.
If she will order more and she will push those products more, it just comes back to they're fun to work with.
Yes. Be fun to work with. That's our best advice.
Be a good person.
Yes, always be a good person. It doesn't take a lot to be kind, but definitely keeping track of everything, doing your invoices on time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let work pile up. Try not to leave things to last minute like I'm doing half the time.
Sometimes it's unavoidable.
Sometimes it is.
But I loved your point about giving yourself extra time too, because if you know it's going to take you realistically, all things go well, like X amount of time, just adding a buffer to that helps prevent customer having to come back to the customer and say, hey, I need to extend this because something went wrong or life happened. Then that kind of like pads their expectation. And so if you can deliver it early, like fantastic, then they're that much more impressed and happy as a customer. But then that also affords you a little extra time just in case.
Right. Yeah, so it's better to say it's going to take 6 weeks to do something, and then it takes only 5 weeks or 5.5, and like, hey, guess what?
Right. Because I think one thing you shouldn't do in order to get a wholesale client is overpromise, or even promise right at expected expectations. Maybe that's wrong. But like if you say, I know it's going to take me 2 weeks, I can do 100 pieces in 2 weeks. I'll have it to you then. And then for whatever reason, whatever happens, like that's the expectation going forward, is that, oh, you can do 100 pieces in 2 weeks. Okay. And so thinking long term, and then setting realistic expectations that reflect your year's cadence of making versus like maybe February when it's really slow and you don't have anything else to do. And it's very different from like October making when you're
Right.
prepping for the holiday season.
I'm already prepping for the holiday season and already keeping these clients that I have now in mind for the holiday
Yeah.
season. So my rule that I made after a few times of doing wholesale was I can't do anything less than 4 weeks. Because the first time I did something was I can do 50 mugs in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they were like, do it again. And I'm like, I am packed with other things.
Yeah. It's
But
the do it again is
do it
the
again.
real.
They didn't actually say it like that, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. May we please have another order of 50? And I'm like, could you please give me 4 weeks instead of 2?
It can be so
And then,
tempting though, because those initial requests when they come through, like, hey, can I have 200 mugs or whatever it is, like, in the back of your head, like, oh, that's a payday. And so I know for me personally, like, I would over promise to like appease or like make them think I was some wonderful, like, I don't know, I just bend over backwards for them.
yeah.
And it just wasn't sustainable over time.
And I had one client at one time was like, wow, we really appreciate you and the people who work in your studio. I'm like, it's just me. Like,
It's
it's
just
just
me.
me. And they were like, how? And I'm like, I don't sleep. Don't know
Anxiety.
where. Who's sleep? What's hydration? We don't know.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, burnout.
Yeah.
Burnout and your bones and muscles hurting.
Yeah.
So
How do
using
you combat that?
tools. Yeah, so using tools to combat that. So I use a strong arm in the studio because repetitive motions of opening things up, that really hurts my ulnar nerve that
Mm-hmm.
leads up into my wrist, which is where I now get acupuncture. That just
Oh,
started
fun.
too, because I already went to the acupuncturist for my elbow, but now I go for my wrist.
Okay.
Permanent damage is fun. Just kidding. But yes, permanent nerve damage, unfortunately, as a potter is difficult. So I use tools. I use a strong arm. I use things like Garrity tools. I make
Hmm.
my own tools. I love using the rubber rib tools from Mud Tools. But anything that helps my process move along more smoothly and effectively and efficiently, and it's going to be easier on my body, is great. Raising up we've talked about this before, staying hydrated for your muscles and everything, keeping your wheel maybe up on stilts or up a little bit higher for your back posture, and then
Mm-hmm.
using different things for like your own physical therapy, whether you're doing stretches as a warm up and a cool down before you work. And this isn't just particular for the wheel, it's hand building. If you're going to be doing mold pours, anything at all, slump molds, whatever you want to do. But any type of exercise to keep your muscles nice and loose, and then keeping hydrated so nothing's tight. And what else? I don't
I
know.
think just general physical therapy. Like if you're moving and
Yeah.
stretching and like priming yourself before you're jumping into these really extensive, labor intensive days, then I think you're setting yourself up better than if you weren't. But
Taking
yeah,
breaks.
take breaks, pay attention to your body.
Be realistic too. If you're like, oh, I have 100 mugs to do, I can get that done in a week, you can, but do you want to?
Yeah, at what cost?
At what cost? Can you do, 50 in the first week where you throw them the first like 2 days of the week and then put handles on them and then get them ready to go and then ball up some balls of clay for the following week and break it up that way?
Oh,
Yeah.
so many. One thing I'd like to talk about in particular with wholesale, if you don't mind, Julie, is being mindful of the forms that you offer in your wholesale. Because obviously the goal being at the start of the conversation was revenue. One of the mistakes and pitfalls that I fell into was as a small studio with smaller kilns trying to attract chefs or restaurants to be the kind of wholesale client that I was after. Because I don't know, for some reason, there was some level of prestige in that for me. It might have been a little bit of an ego thing. But me,
No, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome to see, be like, other people are eating off of my work.
Like there's that too. Like it is really satisfying. And there's like this whole thing of like farm to table, like, oh, this is local clay. It's made with glazes. You're eating off it. It's like completes the cycle. But
Absolutely.
one of the things I didn't realize until after I did wholesale was when you're thinking about the thing that you're making a lot of, and for this it was dinner plates. What I quickly realized was that I could only fit like 12 to 16 dinner plates in a glaze kiln versus I could fit 80 mugs or I could fit like 200 spoon rests in the same kiln. And it's requiring the same like energy cost, but also like your capacity for creating it is so much better, like just depending on the form. So One of the things that I adjusted to with wholesale orders is offering smaller pieces. I don't wholesale 14-inch platters, not without a really good reason.
Mm-hmm.
More so, I'm trying to find customers, if I'm going to seek out a wholesale client, that wants faster, smaller, more easy to create pieces. Like for me personally, it's like if I can make it off a hump, or if I can make it with under 1.5 pounds of clay, like that's not everybody's limit. But I think just think through what it's going to take you to make it, time and energy, and are there other pieces that you could get more profit out of and spend less time and less energy in creating?
That makes so much sense and such a good point to make too, because I have 2 plates that I even made myself that I haven't fired, and it's been several weeks. They've been sitting outside on my ready to glaze and fire shelf, right? And I haven't touched them because I'm like, oh, this is going to take up so much space in the studio. And you can get those little stilts that, stack up your plates.
Those are expensive.
But those are expensive. I was just about to say they're very expensive. So yes, absolutely. If I was going to make something going smaller, I love making minis though too. So, but I could fit so many miniatures in a kiln as compared to even just mugs or whatever. But you also made a great point too in talking about the different types of wholesale in terms of making things for restaurants or for coffee shops. I do smaller miniatures for planters, like putting little mushrooms and things in planters, and that's one wholesale client that I have right now. So looking off of what you like to make and what you enjoy making, and having that work for you and working in your
Absolutely, because whatever it is, you're going to be making a bunch of it if you hate it. This is
Sure.
the hell you've designed for yourself.
Absolutely. That's what I was sitting there making mugs. When I'm attaching handles, I'm sitting there cursing myself like, why can't these be cups?
Yeah.
Why do they have to be mugs? Why do I have to put a handle on it? Why can't I just be done?
Be great
A little
if people wanted
thumbprint in it
cups.
and be done. Yeah.
That handle, it adds so much.
It does. It really does, though.
And I think another part about wholesale that in making it feasible is the profit margins. So just out of curiosity, if you're willing to disclose it, like what is that's the kind of the assumed thing with wholesale is that I'm going to get a discount by ordering this much. So I'm curious what your wholesale discount is, if you don't mind airing it.
I think, yeah, you're totally fine. That's a great question. When I do over 100 pieces, it's a 40-60 split. I get 60, they get 40. And then if it's under 100 pieces, it's a 70-30.
Okay. I feel like that's...
So, yes. But also, if I've worked with the client for a very long time, and they're like, oh, we really only want 50 mugs, and I know they consistently order in the hundreds anyway, or they're going to order another 50 later. I just give them that same 40-60.
When you are setting up that percentage, how are you basing your base price, like your MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price?
True. I have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Which is great. So I put in everything. I know how much it costs to fire my kiln for bisque and for glaze.
Okay.
I know how much all of my materials are. I plug in all of my cost, and then it calculates how much I want to make per hour. Nice. And then it gives me a suggested retail from a certain, like if I'm going to be selling under 20, and then if I'm going to be selling under 50, and I'm going to be selling under 100, and it shows me that percentage and what I should charge. So it does all the math for me. All I have to do is plug in a few little things of what I'm making and the small bits of not even how much everything costs, but how much of each thing of each material I'm using. So
that's a really handy spreadsheet. I bet that's a helpful tool to have.
It is. I should actually, when we put this up on YouTube or whatever we do, or what I'll do too is I'll put the link into, because I got it from a different artist, but I've played around with it to make it my own, but I can make a copy of it and I can share that with everyone. So
that'd be great. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. But what about you? What do you do for making everything?
Similar. I don't have a spreadsheet, as probably I should. So I have some selfish interest in your template. I definitely start with base cost. Like what is it going to cost me to make this thing?
Right.
And I'll try to factor in some level of hourly output into that as well. And then I start, me personally, I will start by doubling that as being even with a wholesale discount, I don't want to make under this.
Right.
So if it costs, and sometimes I don't factor it, sometimes that's my time cost. I'll just have my material cost, I'll double that. And then that doubling is, there's my time cost. And then whatever that is, that becomes my starting point to then create the retail price from which I discount. Because I know like I need to be able to pay myself in addition to the material costs. I've done this in the past too, where I've really discounted my way out of any kind of profit. And I end up with the entire order. I'm like, well, there's a difference between running a business where you are obtaining some kind of revenue and then paying yourself to work. And that's it.
But you also have people that work for you. So keeping in mind everyone that you need to pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that adds another layer to it. I mean, in one hand, the people make the orders more efficient, but also if we're not doing things the best we can, it can quickly add extra cost. So I've just been mindful when bringing in other employees or other staff members, like how are they adding to this project? Is their time inputs reflected in the base cost of what it takes us as a studio to produce this thing? And then from there, how much, even if we discount it off of retail price, are we still making a profit?
Right.
And then as far as like rates, I'm like right there with you, 40%, depending on the relationship with the client or how many pieces they've gotten.
Right. Absolutely. Hopefully all of that information hasn't been too terribly much for everyone.
Maybe. Yeah, sorry if I went in there a little deep.
No, I know. I didn't mean you. I meant us in general too. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, this is such fun, good information that we have to share with people. And for us, we're just like, oh yeah, this is our daily day-to-day what we think about. And I can imagine someone driving going, man, I need a pen and paper. Don't take notes while you're driving.
We'll put it in the show notes too. And you can always hit replay.
Yes. But there's so much that you can put into wholesale, but start small would be my best recommendation. I guess is where I was kind of leading in going with this. Even if it's just 10 or 20 items that you're doing, and being mindful up front too with clients of that time frame, that as orders in the future increase, the time frame that you need in order to complete those orders is also going to increase, obviously.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake.
Same. Definitely same. Yeah, keep it. If you're just starting out and wholesale's an avenue you're interested in, I would say it's a fantastic outlet to get repeatable customers, sustainable income, and really reduce a lot of the anxiety that comes with running a business, because you have your recurring customers and stable income. Just set up the systems in place to make sure you're getting paid before the project begins and getting paid definitely when the project ends. And you have a way to manage invoices or quotes.
Right. And don't do anything too far outside of your comfort zone when you're starting. Sorry, my dog's shaking around to my other one.
That's great.
But I say that just because, again, if you're like, oh yeah, that would be really fun to do a certain shape, and maybe it's a little more complicated, has multiple parts, and especially if you're doing something like teapots or whatever. Yeah. Maybe the client wants like 5 teapots, small teapots in a shop, and then they come back and go, oh, I need like 30 or 40. Yeah. Yeah. I've also had someone request something like that before, and I went, no. Yeah. No, thank you.
Is it okay to say no?
It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. Know your boundaries.
Know your boundaries.
If you don't know your boundaries, you can make your boundaries as you go. Make them up.
And it's also okay, like the contract we mentioned earlier, like it's okay to have, like some pieces are like, this is my wholesale collection. This is what's allowed in these boundaries. It's also okay to have those other products like teapots or something more expressive or larger. And then if the client wants that, you can always negotiate of like, oh, well, if you want these, it's going to be less of a discount, or some other like balancing act to where you're not killing yourself to make 130 teapots for 40% off retail.
Right. And everything is an opportunity as well. So if you're like in a new coffee shop and you're like, ooh, I really like this coffee shop, whatever, and ask them, strike up a conversation. Do you guys ever, sell mugs here? And if you do, would you consider mine? Have your business card? Or maybe even I had someone too who was like, oh, I'd love to see an example. And I just brought her in one of my mugs and said, you can keep this for yourself. And then she messaged me later that day and said, I want at least 15 more. And then it was like, I want 20 more. Yeah. Yeah.
Another part I don't think we've touched on yet is how to find wholesale customers. I mean, really, they're in a lot of different places, especially for pottery. I mean, you're looking for anybody that resells products. Typically, smaller businesses are easier to approach at first until you have at least some level of cadence, because you can find who to talk to. They have less stringent policies about what you can create or how to package or present it. But I would say a good first thing to have on hand would be some level of like deck or information or pamphlet of your offerings and clear terms and pricing. And then being able to just do a local search of within 10, 15 miles of where you live and see what kinds of businesses are out there that might be interested in reselling. And then you can always just call or email or reach out, say, hey, I'm a local creator. I run a ceramic homemade pottery business and I have these lines. Would you be interested in seeing our offerings if your customers would like it? And if you could do research on the kinds of customers that shop in particular has, like you have more of a chance of being able to win them over as a customer per se. And some people may ask for pictures or examples. So just be sure to have a website or at least an Instagram or some examples of your work.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of that is perfect. I do all of that and had to kind of figure it out as I went to having a place for them to go, having examples of your work, and having a pre-written up form of here's what to expect when working with me as a wholesale creator.
If you want to get super efficient about it, one thing that I did a year or two ago is made a landing page, like just for wholesale clients. Like it's not really accessible on the site, but if I'm reaching out to somebody, I will send them that link. And on it, it has frequently asked questions. It's got my offerings, examples of previous client work, terms, pricing, the gamut. And so you're really, honestly, most small business owners, as long as you have that information, they might not in depth peruse it, but just seeing that is such a, they'll take you seriously of like, they've done this before. Okay, sure. We'll get this, we'll get that. And all right, what do you need?
And then when you do your invoice and have that little either attached page of how things can change, whatever you can put in the bottom, and refer to my wholesale order page on my website for any more questions or, if you need anything else.
Absolutely. That's been good.
It's been good. I really enjoy doing wholesale, and I'm glad that it's something that I've gotten into. And even as soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm going to keep doing the orders that I have open right now. So
there you go. I will say before we go, if you find yourself doing wholesale and you do get to the point where you are burning out, but the people who are buying your work through these other retailers, if there's any way, whether it's like a card in the piece, some way to reach the end consumer, then you're setting yourself up for a possibility of shifting out of wholesale in the future. Because any wholesale line that you produce for a single client, it represents a line that you have a buying interest for farther out. And if as long as you can reach those customers, you're kind of setting yourself up for future success of not having to discount that 40% off too.
Right.
So think of wholesale as a means to retail. So anything that you do wholesale, it's also a good idea to have available for full price, like either on your website or in a little shop or gallery or at a market too. Clearly you've expressed or created a demand for products. It'd be nice to sell all those without having to take 30 to 40% off too.
Absolutely. And I love to think about it too. Like I just dropped off another 100 mugs and I'm like, wow, there are 100 people who have, and and even the order before then was completely gone within 2-3 weeks, which is amazing to me. And I'm like, wow, there are probably like 100 people who have these mugs.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about. But yeah, so even today I had a lady who messaged me and she said that she went and bought one of the fall mugs that I had done. And now she has like 5 of my mugs and she just wanted to tell me she was excited. That was it. That was the email I got. I was like, oh, wow, I have a collector.
But she was able to find you and email you. And I think that's
absolutely.
I think that's really powerful too. If there's some way that when you're delivering wholesale orders to have information in there, especially an email list that somebody could opt into, because then once you have their email, it just becomes so much easier to reach back out to them through newsletters. And you have that buyer. You can start setting up a relationship, not just with your wholesale client, but also the end purchaser.
I usually ask them if I could put up a little sign that's just like, hey, these were handmade by Busy Daydreams Pottery, and then contact information of how to reach me, my email, my Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing, website. And then I leave a little stack of my business cards.
Perfect. Excellent work.
Cuts out a lot of the work for future things. And I have gotten a lot of orders that way as well. So it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Think of it like a funnel.
It is.
Getting people in.
But it's funny though, because I went from I'm going to do individual orders and it was too much to I'm going to do wholesale orders. And then now I'm getting a little bit of both because people love my wholesale or the stuff they buy through wholesale, the mugs and everything. And they're just like, well, now I'm going to reach out to her individually and ask for things. So it's a lot of work.
There
You
you
got to
go.
balance. But it's great. I'm
Yeah,
never bored.
that's good. That's the goal.
It's the goal.
Okay.
Well, this has been really helpful to talk through everything, especially, even for me, and hopefully everyone who's listening has found it enjoyable and feels more encouraged to maybe try some wholesale out in the future.
I hope they enjoy it. And if you've got questions about how to set up your wholesale, if this hasn't answered, or if this has left you with even more questions, always feel free to reach out to us at studiosessionsclay@gmail.com, or leave a comment right here on Spotify where you can just let us know how you like the show. If you're enjoying listening along, please give us a like, review, and hit that follow button, because that really helps us know if this is valuable information.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you all so much for listening in. We appreciate you and your time. Happy creating, and have fun in your studios. And yeah, just make sure you're staying hydrated and taking care of yourselves too.
Take care of yourself.
I have to add that in because I am not hydrated right now. So
Can't be overstated.
yes, absolutely. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate you.
Let's get out of here and go get some water.
Absolutely.
All right.
Bye.